Hello, my name is Ray and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I decided to do the Nope Trope book tag. If you've seen my video on tropes, you know how I feel about them, but this looks like a really fun tag. It was created by Zoe from Zoe's All Books, so I will leave a link to her original video down in the description. So the first trope is eavesdropping, which leads to miscommunication, and the prompt is to name a book that you've heard a lot of good things about but ended up hating. I don't necessarily hate this book, but I definitely did not enjoy it as much as I hoped. I'm gonna go with Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I liked the premise of it. The plot sounded really interesting, but throughout the entire series, I felt like Caraval should have been the driving point of the story, but instead the romance kind of takes over. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but in the first book, I felt like Scarlett was not focused. Like your sister's missing. The only way you get her back is to win this game, and you're too easily distracted. And that theme kind of carries throughout the rest of the trilogy, so I definitely didn't enjoy this as much as I hoped I would. The second trope is love triangles, and y'all know how I feel about those. Also, Zoe made a really good point in her video. A lot of times it's actually not a triangle, it's more of a B, because there's person A who is wanted by person B and C, but there's no relation between the two. I think the only time that I've seen a full-on love triangle is An Odd One Out by Nick Stone, but I really hated that book with a burning passion, so that doesn't count. If you have seen a love triangle that is actually well done, let me know what book it's in, because I very rarely see it. But anyway, the prompt is to pick a series where you can't pick your favorite book. I know a lot of people do not like this trilogy for whatever reason, but I'm gonna go ahead and admit that I absolutely love it. I'm picking Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I actually ended up buying all three in a box set. I was looking for them at Barnes & Noble, but this was the only ones that I could find. I couldn't find them individually. I was just gonna buy Shadow and Bone first just to see if I liked it, but I'm really glad that I got this. I loved all three of the books. I know that a lot of people don't like Alina, which is fine. It's understandable. I don't know why people ship her with the Darkling. He's not a love interest. That's weird. But I really loved all of the magic. I think because I'm new to fantasy, and this is one of the first fantasy trilogies that I ever read, I think that's why I love it so much. I just really love the world that she built, regardless of Alina like rising to power too soon or whatever. I just really like the world that she created here. The next trope is Not Like Other Girls, or I Didn't Know I Was Beautiful, most likely until some random guy told me. But the prompt for that one is to pick a book with a pretty cover, but that was boring as all hell. I am going to go with Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I really like this cover. Hold on, let me show you without the dust jacket. Super pretty, right? I like this story to an extent, but honestly, I was kind of bored towards the middle. I honestly don't remember what most of it was about. I remember thinking that it was going to be really good and starting to read it, and I was like, oh wow, this is really interesting. But then towards the middle, it started to fall, and I honestly don't even remember or care how she ended up becoming the Queen of Hearts. So yeah. The next trope is all-consuming love, and name a book that gave you a book hangover. I'm going to go with Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I did not know that I was going to end up loving this as much as I did. If you're a Harry Potter fan, it does really give you those magical, fantastical vibes, and I listened to it on audio, so if you have the opportunity to do so, I highly recommend it. It's like listening to grandma at story time, and you just completely get lost in it, and I just love everything that happens here. There are also two companion novels that aren't necessary to this story because it's not a series, but both of them are equally as enjoyable. I actually read this twice in 1 year, and I very rarely reread, and if I do reread, there's usually like a decade of time in between. So the fact that I read this twice in 2019 really says a lot. It's so good, and it is middle grade, but who cares? It's really, really good. The next trope is douchebag boyfriend. Pick a book that took you a while to get into, but that you ended up loving. For this one, I think my current read might fall into this category. I'm currently reading Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I'm reading with my friend Cassie, and we have a scheduled chat tomorrow. We're about halfway through, and to be honest, for the first half of this book, I did not give a fuck about any of these characters. I feel like the main character is just constantly doing dumb shit and I'm having a hard time getting through. However, at the moment, I have one more chapter to read before we talk about it tomorrow night, and what happened at the end of the chapter that I just finished feels like a turning point. Like, I feel like things are about to get good. I like what has happened so far, and I started to look at the next chapter a little bit, and I think it's gonna get interesting. So I hate that it took so long. We're more than halfway through, but I think that I might end up really liking this. And I hope I do, because I already bought the second book and pre-ordered the third book, which wasn't a great idea, but hopefully this ends better than it is right now. And the last thing is to talk about your favorite and least favorite tropes. The only trope that I like is enemies to lovers, so Pride and Prejudice, The On Honeymooners, that's about it. My least favorite tropes are pretty much anything romance-wise that is not enemies to lovers, to be honest. So insta-love, love triangles, friends to lovers, all of it. I talked about all of this in my tropes I hate video, so you probably already know what I'm talking about. For this, I'm going to tag April from 12 Months of April and Dasha from my Thick Pages. April has also done a tropes I hate video, so I'll make sure to link that specifically. That's all I have for you today. I'll see you in the next video.